Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the April 9th Trees and Public Greenery Committee. First order of business is the acceptance of minutes from March. Anyone have any corrections, changes?
Corrections or
No.
omissions?
Okay, may we have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve the minutes.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 I'll second it too.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
Forgot that part. Okay, removal request, 276 Melbourne Street. Max?
Yeah, is anyone in the public from 276 Melbourne?
I'm shocked that that group of three are on city property.
Yeah, as was I like a year ago when the homeowner asked us to do some work on it. But yeah, so unfortunately, one of these multi-stem leaders broke in a storm early to mid last month. And it failed right where the cabling was installed. And it's something that we didn't do, but you know, done likely by the homeowner or whomever. But yeah, so right there, Peter, behind the red car, the central stem of that tree failed in the storm. And it was actually still tied into other parts of the tree with the cable. So it was kind of like the brush was resting on the roof. And the remaining leaders that are there, obviously, if it's a multi-stem, we take that in consideration. But the rightmost leader to the right of Peter's cursor, that one. So that one, it's kind of lion's-tailed. So we did some pruning on that tree last year. And in order to get house clearance, we needed to remove a lot of that lower brush because this tree was just growing on top of their house. So when we did that clearance prune, it ultimately left just this big tuft of foliage at the top of this tree. And despite it being cabled to the remainder, I still don't think it's an appropriate tree being that close to the house and having all of that weight at the end of the tree. So yeah, I think the appropriate path forward is to just remove what remains at this point.
What's the overall condition of the two remaining?
You know, they're vigorous. They have, as you can clearly see, that there's a cavity there. So there are some cavities from previous prunes all around the tree. Not great root flare. So that tells me that, you know, there's a lot of excess material built up on top, which we know from previous tree failures that could certainly, yeah, great, perfect spot for that car. But
No.
so yeah, I mean, I believe I would call them fair, if not for the fact that we had that failure where the cabling was. So that's my, you know, I think that front stem has probably the most vigorous growth. But again, you know, that tree is growing closer to the power line. So it's only a matter of time before that's now encumbering the utility lines and gets an additional pruning, which then further emphasizes the top loading weight of those trees.
Did the homeowner request this?
The homeowner requested it in wake of this tree removal. And they had requested it before, but it was one of those arguments where, you know, I didn't necessarily think it warranted a removal. We would rather just prune, see how the tree responds. And that was greater than a year ago at this point.
And then the clump that's on the left side. It's good.
It's one of those things where they're all cabled together. So if we were to
No, I mean
remove
the whole
sorry.
other, the other tree to the left.
the oak, yeah,
The
that's
oak one.
fine. Yeah,
That's
that
fine.
large
Okay.
single oak, yes. Yeah,
Okay.
that I have no reason to suspect that would be affected by the removal of these trees.
Any further discussion?
I would move to grant approval for removal.
So remove both leaders.
Yeah, the remaining maple leaders.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. 361 Hanover Street.
Anyone here from 361 Hanover Street?
Yes.
Great.
Shane Forsley, 361 Hanover Street. If the committee would be willing, Terrence Parker, our landscape architect, is running about 15, 20 minutes late. If you don't mind pushing us to the back.
Sure.
All right.
Yep.
Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you. Okay, 205 Broad Street.
Anyone here for 205 Broad Street?
Everybody.
Hi,
Come on up.
Come up there.
yes, please.
Yeah. You state your name, please, and your address.
Good morning, members of the committee. My name is Jay Lajeunesse with River Birch Builders. I'm a resident of Greenland, New Hampshire. And I have been working with Troy and Colleen Blanchard on a planning and design process for building an addition on their home. The property location, there is a tree that we have a request for removal that is within the city right away. The tree is approximately 8 feet from the existing home. There is a proposed renovation that is approximately 15 feet away from the tree that would require a foundation to be installed. Prior to discussions of this addition and renovation, the clients have had concerns about the health of this tree because of the distance it is to their home. The tree is located right against the street. The street did have construction, sewers were replaced, I believe, a few years ago, so there was.
Severino.
Yeah. It was probably 15 years ago.
Yep. Yeah, so there was some street work that was done, sewer work was done, and granite curbing was installed, which is pretty much right against the tree trunk. So there have been previous concerns about this tree, just with the project that we're doing, with the excavation required for the renovation. There's more concern about the health of the tree. So at that point, I reached out to Seacoast Tree Care, who has Peter Lyons is here today, just to examine the tree, just to get, some feedback about the health of the tree. So we did submit, I believe, that report, the tree assessment report, on the health of the tree. And from that research, which Peter can speak on in a few moments, it does appear that, the tree does present hazards where it is now to the utilities, to people that could potentially be walking on the street, to structures. So we are requesting permission to have the tree removed.
You have any comments?
I would only answer any questions.
Okay, could you come forward and give us your name, please?
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Peter Lyon, no S.
Lyon.
Seacoast Tree Care. Yeah, I was asked to take a look at the tree, and I think it's the second time I've looked at this tree, but your first attack or way to look at the trees, actually, I've been in the business for like 40 years, so. And I'm certified to do all this, ISA certified arborist in Connecticut, arborist, et cetera. But the first thing you do is you look at the root flare of the tree. There's missing roots, there's a little decay, there's the construction we talked about, a little bit of missing bark. You look up the tree and there was some open areas farther up the tree. It's hard to evaluate that just by with your eyes. Some previous failures, a little bit of decline, some dead branches. And then you take a rubber mallet and you just bang around the base of it, see if you can, find any decay or. So the first thing the first few hits, I was like, it looks like it's relatively decent. There's some good buttress roots, but on the backside, there's some missing. So when I hit it, it sounded like it was a little bit hollow. So I thought, okay, now the next step would be to bring in a resistor graft or sonograph or whatever you would do. So I did use a resistive graph. It's hard to see on the report. I did bring the actual strip from it if you anybody want to look, but it shows about -5 drawings around the base of the tree. Shows somewhere in the neighborhood of, it starts to drop off at like 5 inches. And then there's 1 or 2 on the backside that went out to 10, but average about 5 to 6 inches of solid wood around. So with that hollow, with the root loss, with the location, that's my assessment that it's not the best tree to keep there, especially with moving forward with more construction. So I'd recommend.
My only question relative to that is you had a re-inspection time of 3 years. Could you comment on that?
It's the way that the analysis runs. So you have, basically you'd want to reassess it in 3 years if you weren't, it only lasts that long, basically, this study. It's kind of basic for a basic tree evaluation.
Okay, if it was more, if the risk of failure was greater, would that interval be shorter? Like 6 months to 1 year? Because you can kind of set that to whatever.
Yeah, you can,
know,
you could
whatever your
reduce
opinion
it.
is.
That's a standard, and maybe I should have looked at that a little closer, because it's a standard form to start. And you add in your findings, basically.
Okay,
So that is for the assessment to advance, or actually I did an advanced one. So the time frame could be less if you were, I would say if you're gonna keep the tree, yeah, you'd want to probably do it a shorter time. So that's, yeah, absolutely.
and then my only other thoughts on the tree risk assessment overall is that you indicated the tree part that is likely to failure or likely to fail are the branches. And that's something that we've gone and pruned, we did a house side pruning on that. So there are fewer branches above the property and the house and the structure.
Yeah.
And obviously that's, we're not going to shave everything off, but
Yeah.
do you think, in your opinion, if we went in and did some pruning to maybe reduce some
I
of the
think the
weight?
bigger problem is the roots.
Okay. Would
You know, with the construction, with the new, there's not a lot of root structure there, and
Yeah.
and then the hollow. I noted that there was failures before, because there was,
sure.
and then you can see that you've pruned it back.
Yeah.
But there's additional decay in the center column as well up higher.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because that wasn't the part indicated at the end of the report
Right. Okay.
leading to the failure.
Right.
So I think that's one of the things I want to bring up. And then the second thing I'd like to bring up is, at least when I received the request for removal with the plan to develop the site, and then a week later with your report,
Yep.
it's almost like there are 2 tracks kind of running simultaneously. Is this tree to be removed for the project, or is it to be removed because it's hazardous?
Well, I have nothing to do with the project.
No, I understand. I'm just illustrating that when I received
Right,
both
for yourself.
2 separate arguments for removal, in my mind, my first thought was, well, if this tree was to stay,
Yeah.
like, are there opportunities to change around the plan for construction to potentially save this tree? And then if we're only looking at it as a hazardous tree, and
Well, I think they go together, no? I mean, I
They do,
think
of
that
course.
if you're doing a project and it's kind of a tree that you'd like to get rid of, you'd go, okay, well, what condition is the tree in?
Yeah.
It's the next obvious.
no, for
step.
sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think,
So
yeah, sorry, Dennis, go
you
ahead.
said this was the second time you looked at this tree?
I think I've looked at it before for you.
And how long ago was that?
Oh, long time ago. Yeah, and I mean, at that time, I just said it was a city tree, And I think we made recommendations for pruning it, this and that, yeah.
Okay.
But we didn't do anything to it.
Okay.
How critical to the
So I can
project
speak
is
to
that retaining wall?
What was that?
speak to that.
Yeah.
Could you
want me to
state
get out of
your?
the way? Get out of
I
the
just
way.
gotta get next to the microphone, then you're gonna have it right back. I could speak to the second leg of that.
Could
which
you
is the-
state your name,
Oh,
please?
sorry, John Chagnon from Haley Ward. I can speak to the second leg of that, which is the project. And Peter, if you go back to the picture showing the tree from the street, the owner does not have
currently doesn't have a garage, relies on on-street parking,
Mhm.
and engaged with an architect to look at putting a garage somewhere on the property, and you see that porch addition straight ahead.
Mhm.
And that was the logical place to replace that building mass with a garage. There's a driveway, a parking spot that comes off, kind of. And that's where you would drive to the garage. There's some grading issues with the relationship between the floors, the floor heights, which are set on Broad Street, and the street slopes away. So the project part of this is that you would be impacting the tree to construct the desired addition for the owner.
And if the tree stays, will they still build the addition?
I mean, I don't know. You can
No, I
speak to
could
that.
speak on behalf of that. I think that the plan is they, yes, I think that they would still,
Which is gonna impact that, the roots is more.
I think that, yeah, I think the intent is to replace the
Okay.
porch with an addition. So that is the concern. They were previously concerned about the tree, but the construction, there is a heightened concern.
And I apologize, can you clarify where in the timeline you are? Have you gone in front of, have you sought permits yet? Are you coming to us before you're seeking the building permit?
Yeah. I
Where in
think-
the timeline
I
of the
think-
project?
Go ahead.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that you haven't gone to site review, gotten these plans approved with the tree, and now we're coming, because we've seen that a few
Yes,
times.
Yes, so I was involved in helping them prepare for the process of getting a permit, which
Okay.
in this case isn't site review, but
Yep.
was zoning board of adjustment. And that's when I flagged the issue that they should come here first.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank
Do
you.
they need setback? Does it meet all the setback requirements, or are they having
So-
border adjustment for?
It's
So they can
board of
build a garage.
adjustment for setback relief, not height, setback relief.
Right.
The there's some existing non-conforming. So even if you expand,
The side setbacks where the garage is gonna go is met though, right? 'Cause what, 10 foot inside? I mean, is the issue this distance here?
there should be, yeah, let me get my drawing, sorry. Yes,
If it hasn't gone through the board of adjustment yet,
it has,
it has, so it's gotten all the approvals
it
necessary?
has not.
Oh, it has not.
I flagged the tree and said, this is important, don't go to the Board of Adjustment first, come
Right.
here. And that would dictate. So.
So if
the
the,
exhibit that you have, the site plan exhibit. You got
I do have
That's
a
the
copy
picture.
here if you would like that.
the building setback line. And if I could somehow point to it.
you wanna just speak to it, John, and I can move the cursor up here?
Sure. So you see the 13016, which is the tax map ID?
Right here, yeah.
Yep. Just to the right of the middle of that box, that's the building setback line. And then, oh, stop there.
Right there.
Nope, a little bit over. Where it takes a dog leg just to your right
Oh.
down there.
That little thing. right there.
Yeah, so that's,
Oh.
those are the building setback lines. So the building setback is the building has already violated the building
The
setbacks.
porch that's there now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
porch
every
that's in there.
non-conforming lot in the city of Portsmouth.
It's a part of
Just
that
about all
whole
of them.
neighborhood, and some of the, the construction was done over many years. It's a pre-existing non-conforming. So it will need setback relief.
Yeah, I guess my point is that if we grant the tree removal and the BOA doesn't
Right.
grant the waiver, then we're condemning the tree without necessarily a cause for the condemnation. So
Yeah, I guess that could be a
y-
conditional thing,
Conditional removal upon if that motion
yeah, if
carries.
you
Yeah.
got the approval, obviously would continue to monitor it on the frequency recommended.
I think the owner's not here to speak to that directly, but I think that's a fair statement at this point.
Yeah, I mean. I agree.
Because if the BOA doesn't approve it, then they can't do the addition, so.
Right.
And I mean, there is if I ask a question, if they did not receive the relief to construct the addition, if they still wanted to pursue having the tree removed, could they come back and still ask for that after this?
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, so I think then that would be, if that is a condition of approval that helps step one, then I think that would make sense to move forward with that, if that's gonna help this be okay today, and they could come back at a future date if needed.
Madam
Um,
Chair, just for the record, there was a letter received opposing the removal of the tree
Mhm.
from a budding property owner or resident.
Okay, thank you.
Peter,
Uh,
can I see that?
Pat, my assessment of this tree, and correct me if I'm wrong, Max, this would be the largest northern catalpa tree in the city of Portsmouth.
I can only think of two others.
There's one on the
and
corner of Middle and Austin on
Mhm.
Sean property.
Yep.
I'm not sure where the other one is.
there's another one out, middle and it's
There's one out
further
by
out, going toward
The garden
field.
center,
Um,
old skating rink on Greenland Road.
No, maybe it's South Street.
Well, I was
It's
thinking of
South
two other
Street.
ones.
Oh,
So there's a
okay,
little
it's
bit more than,
south. It's-
there's actually one here at City Hall, right? Between the,
It's on the
between-
bank and over here.
on the embankment over here,
Mm.
which is
It's in rough shape.
It's in rough shape.
Mhm.
And then there's another one off of Banfield Road where there was the fire department they burned a house down off.
Mhm.
You know, you may recall what I
The
mean.
control.
Yes.
Anyway, there's a large
yes.
catalpa out there as well, but there,
That's
again, it's
what I'm
this like
thinking
open
of.
field and there's no. So yeah, those are the two that I was thinking of.
Madam Chair.
Um,
I have a question over
I'm
here.
sorry. Yes.
Yeah,
Mr.
can I
Shaggy.
ask a question?
Yes.
Are those trees ones that you can plant and they'll survive in this environment now?
It's already in.
Like an urban environment?
Yeah,
Yes.
You can't kill a catalpa.
you can't what?
You
You can't kill it?
It's
You
a
can
weed.
try? I mean, I think there might be an opportunity to plant a new tree too. I'm just posing
Yeah.
that, you know.
I think-
so.
It's usually our MO.
Yeah.
That's our procedure.
It is,
Take
and then
something, we plant a couple, but.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah,
with
this
a
juncture.
36-inch tree like that, and then saying, here's a 2-inch tree to replace.
I'm not
it,
saying it's the
like-
same thing.
Yes.
believe me.
Oh, of
I'm not,
course.
I'm not.
Thank
But
you.
every tree has a
We
lifetime.
do that.
Do we have a motion? I mean, would someone like to propose a
I'll
motion?
propose for discussion, the removal of the tree as requested.
Based on the future
Conditionally?
conditional approval or whatever of the ZBA. Or no.
Sure, with that friendly amendment.
Okay.
The motion was for discussion.
Okay,
I,
go ahead.
And was there a second for discussion or?
No.
second for discussion. I think part of what want to make sure that this committee takes into consideration for being in the camp of potential removal is that parking is a huge issue in our city. And that if we are looking at, this property owner is looking at potentially building a garage and removing that vehicle off of off-street parking, I do think, while it's not necessarily in the purview of this committee, we should consider that when we have requests like this. I think we will start seeing more requests of people building potential additions onto their property and or garages onto their property. So I think we also need to be aware that especially in this neighborhood, parking is a tight situation, as we see in other parts of the neighborhood, city, and as the city as a whole is looking at its parking situation and what it can do. It's worth noting that, if homeowners can find ways to alleviate the stress on parking themselves, it should hold a little bit of weight, at least in my opinion. That was all.
What's the,
So is that discussion?
what's
That's
the
discussion.
proposed? Okay.
You propose to remove it.
Remove the tree upon approval of the Board of Adjustments agreeing to the waiver request.
Do we have a second?
Big Joanne.
I second it for discussion.
Discussion.
for discussion? Okay.
Does that mean we will revisit removal
I-
per the approval? I apologize. I'm not-
So I'd like to speak further to the concerns that the assistant mayor brought up. I would like to separate that parking discussion from this committee. The charge of this committee really is
Right.
protecting the trees.
Mhm.
And in this case, where, you know, a risk assessment has been done and indicated the tree is in decline. And that it's not a matter of, you know, it's, you know, he says revisit in 3 years, you know, there's aspects of it, you know, I don't know, maybe it's a 10-year tree, maybe it's, you know, how many years out. I do have a vivid memory of, you know, doing that project and having to do an emergency removal of a tree. It was a silver maple, obviously, it was not as
Hardy.
robust a tree. But it was an emergency removal because during the middle of that construction. Part of my thought is that, you know, if a resident is mobilized to do the work now, has the resources to do the work now, and the tree is likely going to be taken down within their owning the property and utilizing the property. I'm sympathetic to, you know, taking the tree now and planting a new tree, you know, a little bit over to the left of it. And, you know, giving the chance for a longer, you know, for the resident to be able to appreciate and, you know, have something grow at
Yeah.
that location. So, I mean, that would be my thought. And I do support my initial motion to contingent upon BOA, but I also understand that, you know, if somebody comes back, that, you know, they'll likely come back and ask again. And you know, if BOA does not allow it, then that's fine. I'd be, you know, happy to monitor the tree over time and replace it at that time, you know, when it's determined to be needing to be taken down.
I have kind of two follow-up thoughts. Because it's associated with a specific project, would that cost be of the city? Would the city pay for the removal of this tree, or should it be put onto, because it's, you know, if this project can't
Yeah,
go
that's
through without the removal of this tree, is that a cost that the city is willing to?
well, I said a cost of the city should be bearing at this time. I mean, obviously, if the tree fell down or if it's an extreme risk, we'd have to take it down.
Right.
But we don't budget for this, you know, convenience removals. It's not, you know, we budget for emergencies and.
Could we have an assessment done? Can you do it? Can
That was-
we
So my
have our
second
own
thought
assessment?
was to have a second assessment done. Removed from the project, removed
Right.
from the city, so that it's a fair third party. Someone comes in with no pretext. Hey, can you do a tree risk assessment? Here's the history of this site. People are parking. You know, in the drip line of this area, 15 years ago, this project was done and it could have impacted the roots. So like resistograph is great. I think that's a fantastic tool. I've never used one. My first thought was, well, like, why can't we do some kind of root flare excavation and just see,
Yes.
you know, remove some of that dirt and really get a view if those roots are really that impaired? That would be a very clear indication to me. So there are
I
other
feel more
opportunities.
comfortable with that.
Just come up to this mic right over here. You can stay. If it just feels like.
So, you know, I agree with everybody, what everybody's saying, but I am impartial. I'm not part of this group. I just hired on side. I don't lie.
No, no, that's,
I-
yeah,
I'm just putting it out. And-
understood.
And root excavation and taking a look at the buttress roots would be a great idea. Because you can't see what, you know, what you can't see, but we know, what do we know? We know that the curbing was put in, so there's a lot of damage to that side. The side on where they park the car, the compaction is a lot of compaction. Roots can't grow in compacted soil. That's very close to the house, and there's previous failures and there's decay. And I know it's a big catalpa, but I think as a city, the risk it outweighs like an old catalpa that unless you could really mitigate, and I'm not sure that you can mitigate it, you know, by taking the top out and all the branches.
Sure.
Is that really what you want to do? to
I
that
think
tree?
if this construction moves forward, there's no protecting that tree. Like, there's no world that exists where both this project occurs and this tree exists in the same
Right.
space. So I fully concede that. And I also agree that your observations are correct. Like, I'm not questioning that.
Okay, no, I didn't think you were, but you indicated you bring in somebody that.
So,
Was-
so just
was
to,
it
just to
partial? And I-
assuage
yeah.
your,
I don't see the harm in getting.
No, there's no harm at all.
Kind of like
Absolutely.
going to a doctor and you get. one assessment,
Absolutely.
You say.
They're very
you know, it's an
suggestive.
extreme, thing to take.
The
on a
new
mature
tree risk
so-
assessments are very vague.
and just so you know, we do, second opinions on a regular basis.
No,
so
no, no,
it's
no,
not-
I agree.
no-
Absolutely. I often recommend it myself to people who have it done. I just wanted to clarify my position.
I didn't mean to insinuate anything. I was
Okay,
just-
no problem, no
offense.
problem.
Max, I guess with that is if this project moves forward, the trees could make it for a short amount of time, but the expectancy is gonna be reduced massive. There's gonna be construction damage to this tree.
Absolutely.
So I guess the only reason I would do it, either Liz or I could do the track for you or whatever, but if I would only support doing that second assessment if they come back to us, if the project doesn't move forward.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, right.
that make
of
any
course.
sense?
Yes, of course.
Sorry,
Yeah.
it's a long,
No,
it's a long curvy road to
No,
get to
you're
that
good.
point.
Right.
But if
Yeah.
the project's going forward, it's gonna get
Yeah.
root damage, it's gonna get hit by a backhoe, whatever's gonna happen, other stuff is gonna happen to that tree.
But if they refer it back to this committee,
Then
then we do the
Then
expert.
I'd
Absolutely,
wanna
yeah.
look at it a second time, because it is a big old tree.
Yeah,
It's not
of
the
course.
biggest, it's not the oldest or whatever, but it is an important tree right in that sort of section. So it's
Absolutely.
worth another look.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Agree.
Are you on,
Good.
as far as going from the ZBA, are you on their calendar yet?
I think the submittal is supposed to happen in time for the next,
Okay.
for the meeting in May.
Okay.
Do we know when in May that is? Is it very
20
early?
It's, I would
Good.
say it's the middle to end of the month.
Okay.
May
Tuesday.
So the next soonest potential time this tree could come up would be
June.
the June meeting. Okay.
Are we good?
So
And I just have one question for Peter and Max, where we just talked about that, we don't really budget for convenience removals based on project. Would that mean that the city would be looking for the owner to incur the costs? And if so, do we have a mechanism to that? And if so, is the property owner willing to do that?
So the,
These are a bunch of
the
questions,
mechanism
sorry.
would be, the committee says that would approve it if, at the owner's expense. And, they'd work, the tree removal company would work with Max
Yeah.
to make sure it's done
Coordinate.
properly, just
Yeah.
coordinate. If not, and you approve the tree to be removed, we would be responsible for the costs associated with it. The city would be. So it's,
Because it's deemed hazardous.
yeah,
Is
whatever
that
the
the given?
justification,
Okay.
if the committee said, let's take it down, then, we would be responsible for taking it down.
Okay, so the committee does have the power to say, if this gets approved and it gets removed based on convenience of the project, to say that it would have to be at owner's expense. If the committee so moves forward, the committee does have the purview to be able to do that.
I would say yes, in that we don't have the money. And
Yes.
the committee could say, it's a convenience,
Yes.
it's not. a
It's not
safety-
fully hazardous, yeah.
It's not a safety-driven removal. Therefore, if it was going to go forward, it's at the benefit of the property owner, and therefore the property owner should be paying for it.
Okay,
And that's consistent with what we
Yeah.
do elsewhere. So
I just want to make sure that the property owner and the team for the property owner is aware that that could be a condition for the.
Understood.
Okay, so we have a lot of moving parts here. We have a conditional possible, a vote on a conditional
so the
removal
motion was
depending on
to-
CBA.
Yep.
Conditional, who's going to pay for it depending on what happens with the ZBA, or if we're going to, could you clarify that, Peter, please?
I added a wrench, so.
Yeah, so if,
It's a lot of,
I mean, I could amend, or we could have a friendly amendment to say, if it's approved by BOA, the property owner would be responsible for removal of the tree.
I would make that friendly amendment.
Okay. Okay,
So
we
wait till after
Yes.
they make their.
So
And then we'll
BOA
get to
makes the
weigh in again.
decision.
Yep.
BOA makes the decision. Therefore, no, we would agree that if BOA says yes, the tree comes down at the owner's expense. If it says no, we do a reevaluation. And if it shows that it's a risk, the city's responsible then to take it down.
That's not the owner coming back to us for that
Yeah.
request.
Yes.
If the project,
Okay,
if the
yeah.
project
If it
stops,
came
then,
back.
you know, the owner can choose to leave the tree alone.
right, then it comes back as a new request
Yeah,
to remove.
separate from the project.
Okay,
Okay.
so we. So are we all clear?
So we're
I'm not-
moving-
I'll restate it again. So
Yes,
the removal is contingent upon the Board of Adjustment saying yes
mhm,
to the addition
mhm,
and the property owner paying for the removal of that tree.
okay,
That is the one direction.
That's
If
what we-
BOA says no, the property owner is, and this is not part of the motion, the property owner can come back and ask for it. It doesn't need to be part of the motion because it's denied. Property owner can come back, make a request to take it down. And then at that time, we can review it, see if it's a safety hazard based on the additional information. If it's a safety hazard, the city takes it down. But that's not part of the motion. Motion is purely the BOA
Okay.
approves. It gets approved to be taken down at the owner's expense.
okay. And Joanna seconded. Okay, so are we ready to vote? All in favor?
Split.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, 2 opposed, Deb and myself.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Sometimes they go like that, guys.
I know it.
I'm
Yeah, that was
sure
heavy
we-
one.
Wait till
That
the
was
next
tough.
time you go.
We can figure it out.
Okay,
This.
I'm gonna
Fine.
Hold on. They removed this as part of the zoning board.
Yeah.
Oh, no,
Like
I
we
know.
could-
So
we could-
sorry.
They were agreeable to it, but
Yes.
doesn't mean they're
Sharon?
condition that they have to agree to.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
hi, thank you, Deb.
That's where it's kind of a mess, but yes.
Okay, we can go back to 361 Hanover, thank you.
Hello.
And
Hi, everybody.
hi, Terrence Parker. Good morning.
Yes, Terrence Parker, landscape architect, terra firma, here with John Shagnon and Shane from the, what's your company? Sorry. From Hampshire Development, 361 Hanover Street.
Okay.
So I believe we're here just to talk about the plants on the city property line, not
Mhm.
the whole landscape, but I'd be willing to talk about the whole landscape if there were questions about that.
And also the 2 ash removals.
Yeah, so the-
associated.
It's interesting that, I've been studying the ash tree and its infestation with the emerald ash borer for some time now, because everywhere I see dying ash trees. And as you know, ash tree was the famous wood for the American baseball bat. So I just 3 weeks ago, I had an ash tree fall on my house because it was infested by emerald ash borer to the tune of $18,000 in damage that glad that the insurance company is covering. And there's not an ash tree that's not going to be infected by the emerald ash borer. So I'm not 100% sure that these trees are infected as of yet. They look pretty good, but
Yeah.
it's just a matter of a year or 2 years.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure we've all gone out, we've all looked at these trees. I mean, they're not in the best shape. They've been pruned by Eversource. One of them was a multi-stem that was cut at the base and now there's fruiting bodies in that old wood. Yeah, that one right there on the right, Peter. You could probably zoom in and actually see the fruiting bodies on that old cut down at the base of the tree. If you, yeah, you can kind of,
There it
yeah, you
is,
can
yeah.
kind of make, so, I mean, I put them down as poor. I mean, they're clearly stressed out. They're putting out a lot of growth down in the midsection of this tree, in both trees, I should say, been pruned like crazy. And you're right. It's just kind of like, why wait for EAB to infest these
Yeah.
before removal. I think they are appropriate removal candidates right now, given their current vigor and general health at this point.
So what we're proposing is to replace them with 3 columnar red maples out of the line of the utility line is almost exactly at the property line there. The utility line is much lighter, but that black line there to the left of the proposed 3 trees is just about the same as the utility line. So the trees are out of the utility line, and they're there in combination with the red cedars to screen the view from Brock Street and the abutters on that side of the road of the new proposed buildings. So there's a transformer there. There's 3 new trees going in where there's 2 being removed. And they're columnar trees, so the canopy will only get to be 8 or 10 feet wide. And, you know, be out of the growth habit. Their growth habit will be out of the dimensions of the wires. So I think there'll be less problems in the future than there are now. So there's a lot more plants there than exist now. So we think we're improving the situation there. So I can talk about the wider landscape if that's required, but I think we're just here to
Just
talk
the right
about
of way, yeah.
the right of way there.
Any thoughts on the 2 ash removals right now?
Most likely they have EAB and we just can't see it.
Yeah. Didn't see any exit holes or no blonding, but like it's
around.
yeah, it's in the neighborhood for sure. So.
Yeah, question, John?
Okay, any,
After the
Any-
removal vote.
So I'm just trying to get an idea of where the new trees will be planted, because it looks like those ash are planted right on the edge of that parking lot.
So the new trees are, I'm not exactly sure where the edge of the parking lot is relative to the proposed sidewalk.
Probably very close
Very close
to where the edge of the building is now, or the proposed building, I'm sorry. So the edge of the pavement is probably very close to where the edge of the proposed
So it
building.
looks like it's in line with the retaining wall, John.
Peter,
that-
if you move your cursor to the right just slightly, you can see the property boundary. It's
there, that
double
dark line.
dotted
To-
and dashed
to the
to
right of
the
the
right,
cursor,
a
right,
couple
yeah.
feet.
Right of the cursor, right there.
Yeah, right there.
So that's about
Yeah.
the edge of the pavement right now.
So that's all getting redone.
Yeah, taken out.
So the new sidewalk is actually going into that green area even further. Is that
Correct.
correct?
So
So
then,
then those trees are gonna be planted even closer.
4 feet off the edge of the new sidewalk.
Okay.
It's still significantly, they're not under the power lines, they're still way to the east of the power lines, so, and they're columnar trees.
Do we know what the mature height of these?
I think they're
Blowouts are?
40, 45, 50, so they get to be,
Okay.
they're good sized trees, they're just very narrow.
Cause what's the, for Eversource, do they require 10 feet clearance? From those power, like if they were to come in and do some pruning,
They'll brush them back long term because those probably are 35 or 38 foot poles, maybe a little taller.
okay,
They've got 3-phase across the top of those. So
right,
they're gonna
So
brush them
it's-
back, but they're not gonna wide crotch them out.
okay,
And columnar trees and red maples grow fast, but
Yeah.
I mean, it's a telephone pole with leaves.
Mhm.
This isn't a 40-foot wide canopy on on a typical red maple.
and they're not gonna hit 10 feet wide at the top, it's not gonna be like a
Yeah.
tube, but it's gonna come
They'll,
to
they'll
a.
turn to,
pyramidal.
they'll turn to a tube long term, but you're out decades.
So the trees they're gonna be right in this general area. As if they line up with the
yep,
the
that'd be
retaining
about
wall,
right.
which is right there.
Well, the outside edge of the canopy, when I drew the circle, was still not under the wires.
Yeah, they're trying to squeeze in
Yeah.
The base of the
the
tree
best way
though,
they
is
can
what he's
get
saying.
into a tight spot.
right.
No thought about burying the utilities?
Not those lines, Peter, but there will be some buried in the vicinity.
Feel free to bury.
Just to be clear, we've been working on the site plan approvals for this and the department has made some comments. So there will be some changes to potentially that sidewalk location and things of that nature. There will be some buried utilities. The square box is a transformer and that may we're working with Eversource and they're dictating some of the utility runs and what they need for infrastructure in the neighborhood. It's separate from the overheads, though. It's a underground that loops around the Foundry Place underground. But one of the comments the Department of Public Works had, and I don't know the answer to this question because it's never come up for me, but they wondered if the developer could do an adopt-a-spot. Does
Mhm.
that come through this committee or is that a different?
We talked about driving it. several times.
Adopt a spot is just a direct request. It's a simple.
DPW?
Yeah, simple application.
Okay.
So just,
So the department has asked that the development take over this little area, which is kind of between Rock Street and a development.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
Is it-
nice.
Does that include like so you're talking about the piece of this kind of closest to the playground?
no, just this piece that you
Just
see
this
here,
piece,
because
okay.
it's in the Rock Street right away.
Okay.
I mean, it's this area here. In de facto, you've already kind
We
of
compare-
adopted it
yeah.
because you're maintaining this space right now.
Yeah.
So
And the park is down further, right?
Yeah.
You can see it
That's right
there on
over
the
here.
left, right?
That's it.
It came out great.
One of the hidden gems.
Okay, so we have basically just voting on tree removal, the ash tree
And,
removals.
And the approval for planting.
And the plantings, okay. And we can do those together? Do we have? Do we have?
suggest we do
Sep-
two
separate?
separate votes.
All right, so let's vote on the tree removals.
I make the motion to remove those.
Second.
Michael seconded, okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, and then a vote on the landscape design.
Move to approve landscape design as
I'll
presented.
second that.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Good selection.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sarah.
Thank you very much.
That was just so- You did
Oh,
great.
thank
You
you.
did
I like-
really well.
I like the red cedars.
Yeah.
Nobody
Yeah.
uses them.
Yeah.
They're a little ugly, but they're tough as hell.
I think-
And, you know, they'll never have any problems.
I just saying, I feel like that project, why it's been controversial, like, it reminds me of, do you know where, well, so you know, where like the Blue Mermaid and stuff is, how they have congregant of houses? Ideally, it's supposed to be like a bigger version of that. versus
Okay,
like
we're on to,
one building.
328 Colonial Drive.
yes.
Every development made up.
So these two trees were requested by the resident. I made a note here that I believe one of those trees should be removed. And as soon as Peter brings it up, but it's the linden nearest their driveway. That one is very clearly rotted through the center when looking. So both trees have large wounds. They're probably from old tear outs long ago. And
So that's not the one nearest the corner.
correct, the one nearest the corner, which is the larger tree that's, to my opinion, is healthier and more vigorous. The tree nearest the driveway has some, even now has some dead branches hanging in it. It's been pruned really poorly by Eversource. And the main concern from this resident was things coming down or potentially falling and hitting their home. The large tree on the left here on the screen that you see, the one that's closer to the corner, all of that weight is going toward the road. So realistically, I don't think, I know there's this large wound on the backside. When I saw it, it was full of water, so that's not a great indicator, but at least the only target out there would be the road and like the 1 second a car is underneath it. Presumably everyone's using the sidewalk, so I don't see much of a risk in keeping that tree. I see that there's a greater risk in keeping the tree near the driveway because more often than not, when I was there was a car parked really close to, like in their driveway, but close to the tree. So paired with the poor pruning, paired with its a little bit lower vigor, I feel it is appropriate to remove that tree, given its current condition and issues. And then leaving the other tree, and we could just do some kind of pruning to relieve some of that weight and lift it up out of the road. It's probably, we're probably due to get into Colonial at large and prune what we have in there now. So we could just incorporate that into our typical pruning cycle out there. So yeah, that's where we're at.
Okay. So any questions?
Take your recommendation,
Yes.
place it in the form of a motion.
Okay,
Second it.
second. So Joanna, second.
Yeah.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
You.
Thank you.
Okay.
All righty, Arbor Day
Yeah,
fast approaching.
yeah, fast.
I know.
We're nearly there. So, for Peter Lachlan, it was determined that we'll plant a black gum. So where the Thaxter entrance to the tree farm is,
Mhm.
we will do a black gum sort of close to, because that's all wetland back there. And this is a great spot to put a black gum tree. And then we're also going to move that large piece of granite that the city council
This is down.
is giving.
Donated for Peter. yeah.
Donated for Peter, yeah. So we'll move
It's
that.
very large.
It is very large.
5 feet.
So we're
back.
going to move that
Nope, not bad.
before Arbor Day. So Arbor Day will be the tree and then the bench.
Yes.
And we'll all meet there at that Thaxter entrance, and that's what,
That's wonderful.
that's what it's looking like, yeah.
Happy reunion, my friends.
Yeah, so we'll select a black gum from Milliken.
Yep.
We'll get a nice decent sized one, and
Great.
it should look really nice down there.
Great.
I think it's a great site for a tree like that.
And that it will be mentioned in the city newsletter.
Yes, so I will be in contact with Stephanie Secord, and she will make sure that gets publicized.
And I can put a line, if the committee so votes or chooses, I can put a line item on the agenda for our next meeting, which will be the week, that Monday.
Oh,
Yeah.
perfect.
So I will
I
add
move
that.
to have the assistant mayor add that to the agenda,
Yes.
council
Okay.
agenda.
And Joe, I believe you're reading the proclamation this year too.
Yes, I'm back, guys. Sorry, I wasn't here
Oh.
last year. I actually planned my trip around Arbor Day,
Uh,
but I can't leave until the 26th.
Yeah,
So we have,
that's-
do we have to vote on that? Peter?
Yeah. I
Your
think
motion?
Mm.
Yes?
As motioned, yes.
Okay, second?
Who seconded it?
I am.
Oh, AJ, okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great.
And that's the 25th.
Yeah, the last, is it the last Friday in April? I believe it is the
Yes.
25th.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So it's like fun. Okay, tree planting 2025.
We're well underway. I think we're between all of the projects that were city projects that I've mentioned in the past, between that, we're probably like 60, 70 trees in already. We're finishing up the skate park today, which is, I'm really excited to see something else out there other than dirt, and
Concrete.
there's a lot of dog poop out there. Yeah, I told the crew to be very careful out there. So that'll be great. Yeah, we're gonna continue planting until we're out, but it's crazy that it's already that time of year again.
Yeah.
It wasn't part of the original contract. It was the budding property owners
Mhm.
The fence at the skate park.
requested that the area be fenced to reduce the migration of young children.
Actually looks good.
Um,
Field back there. It's
Mhm.
gonna be great.
Trying to think if there's really anything else that's worth mentioning for tree planting. No, we're just making our way through the list, but it's going really well. Speaking about Colonial again, really briefly, we've only lost 2 trees out there.
Okay.
One was hit by a plow.
Mhm.
And then, which, I mean, happens. And then so last year we received some really small Kentucky coffee trees.
Mm.
And for whatever reason, this one, when I looked earlier this year, it had just a bunch of sprouts at the bottom and the entire stick of the tree was just dead. So, so those are the only 2 we've had to replant for
Pretty-
all of
it's pretty
Colonial,
good.
which is pretty good. If that's an indication for the rest of the city.
Right.
And usually we'd have a good idea because it's sometimes just selection dependent. So if they ship us 5 Zelkova and 3 of them don't make it, we start to think, all right, well, were they just were the roots pretty well mangled when we planted them? Yeah. So I think last year's coffee trees are the Zelkovas from a couple years ago. They were just
Yeah.
they were just not going to make it once we received them. So
But overall, the bare root
Oh, yeah.
philosophy is working
Yeah, oh
really
yeah, of
well.
course. Yeah, it's
That's great.
just a night and day difference for sure.
Where are the hackberry trees going?
Oh man, off the top of my head, I'm not sure. I don't know. I know we're putting
You got 5 of
one.
them. They all.
We
come?
did, yeah, they all came. They look really good. I think one is going over onto Rockland Street near Leary Field.
That's okay.
I'd have to get back to you, but yeah,
It's rare that we've planted them in the past.
yeah, no, they're a great little hardy tree, so.
Okay, any new business? Old business?
Old business, Max's seedlings will be available for Saturday.
For Saturday,
They're digging
oh my gosh.
consistently now. They've still got frost on the ground.
Max's face.
Oh my God. All right. So, so the sustainability fair is Friday.
Yes.
Oh, it's Friday.
It's Friday.
Oh, it's Friday.
So last year was the day before, it was a Saturday last year.
Okay.
And I left work early to go pick those up.
Yeah.
So that they were ready for Saturday, but now it's Friday night
Be
this
real
year.
early this time.
Yeah, so,
What
Yeah.
time Friday do you need them by?
it would have to be, I think it starts at 4:30.
Okay.
So, yeah,
We'll get them here.
really?
I talked to Billy this morning on the way in.
That's
after
incredible.
Wrestling with the horses. So I talked to Billy early before he got going this morning.
Wow.
They just haven't dug everything yet.
I called them like late last week
Yeah.
and they did not think they would be ready. So I mean, I'll have to rescind.
They've been digging stuff like crazy.
No kidding.
Because
Okay.
the frost just, the rain helped them break up some of the
If,
frost.
if we can hand those out on Friday, great. I was prepared to come in on another separate Saturday and publicize that we're handing out free saplings at the recycling center. So, but if that's
Either way.
available and we can do it,
Do we in the top?
fantastic.
They're actually just gonna be shipped in the bags, but we've got the cups at my
Yeah.
place.
Yeah, we'll give
We
them
provide
out
the
with
cups
the,
with some soil and that kind of stuff. We've got the cups and soil. That's easy.
Yeah.
But we'll get them.
wow,
Awesome.
very cool.
Yeah,
Do we have any acknowledgement of that we're getting these trees, the signage or something saying that we're getting them from the state?
Yeah, on the board that we had our sign department print out, it says that these are State Forest Nursery
Okay.
saplings.
Cool.
So,
that's great.
wow, that's.
So that's
awesome.
Friday night at
Friday.
the Connie Bean.
4:30 to 7:30.
Wow.
Yep.
It's great.
Wow. Okay, that's some good news. Thanks, AJ.
That's something.
All right.
You
Thank
guys did
you.
a great job on that oak down here in the parking lot.
Oh, really?
I was amazed at the deterioration inside that tree.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, thank you. Much. You just moved
Okay,
one yard, you're
I
in.
think we are adjourned. We don't
Motion
need
to
a
adjourn.
Right.
motion to adjourn. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
At the end of Owen Park behind.
Done.
So,
Yeah, everything.